All right, so a while ago I put out a little "what video should I do next" type of thing, and people are like, "It sounds so narcissistic when I say it," but they're like, I love your story times. Listen, I don't think I'm anybody special. I don't think I'm that interesting, so let's just get that out there. I can't take compliments or positivity at all. I really am used to negative reactions to me. I'm not even bullshitting. This isn't like a persona I put on. 9 times out of 10, if you're nice to me, I don't know what to do. So if you ever really truly want to fuck with me, be nice to me. Monkey knows this. There's sometimes where he'll say something nice about me. I have to pee. Like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to handle it. Because I'm used to being on the defensive all the time. But I was a troublemaker growing up. But not in a stereotypical way. In the teen years, too, it wasn't like, I was in gangs or I did drugs or I dealt drugs. I was never smart enough for that. I was like, I have to count. Okay, there's like kilos and shit involved. That's like school to me. I'm not interested. No, you guys go ahead and do what you got to do. But I did mean, nasty shit, and my friends did mean, nasty shit. And I always had an objective with my mean, nasty shit. It was to utterly ruin somebody psychologically. I was twisted. I don't know what's wrong with me. It could be for any infraction whatsoever. Usually it was adults. When I was younger, like there was the guy who owned the building next door to me hated me. He would say something or annoy me or do something, and so I would remember one of the first times I ever took retribution, and this is how twisted I am, and I own it. I went to a local magic shop slash where they sell pranks and stuff, and there was this stuff. I don't know if you guys ever used to have it. It called shit spray or fart spray. I don't know if it's just ground up like corpses that they saved in the trunk of a car for 5 years and then somehow managed to, I don't know, encapsulate that smell that would have. But whatever this substance was, and it was for, haha, make something a little stinky by spraying this shit spray, they call it on it, or fart spray, whatever you have. This was ungodly, whatever was in this bottle. I still to this day don't know what it was. It could have been like, I don't know, fucking Oprah Winfrey's like vagina juice. I have no idea, but it was something horrible smelling, horrible. And the guy who owned the building next door to me, like he was an asshole. So I decided I was this advanced at 10. Like, I could have been like playing a piano or something. I don't know what's wrong with me. I could be like doing something that meant something. No, he had a huge building complex. So I looked at each like vestibule where people would go in, went, bought the shit spray because it was like $5, sprayed it in each vestibule, like as much as I could. It was a huge bottle. So I like went to vestibule 1, sprayed, vestibule 2, sprayed, vestibule 3, sprayed. Vestibule is like where everybody gets their mail, and this building was so huge it had like 8 entrances. So each entrance, I sprayed the entire hallway. And I proceeded to go to my friend's house across the street, sit down with some M&Ms, and him too, and watch as people arrived home from work or were coming out of the building literally sick to their stomachs, like vomiting and not knowing why they're doing that. And him somehow knowing it was me, but not being able to prove it because my smart ass is sitting across the street. And he just knew. He just knew. But that's kind of bullshit I would do. It's just fucked up weird shit. Like, I never came at anybody the way they thought I would. Like, you kick your ass. I'm gonna do that. No, no, no. It was like, your life is going to go to hell, and it's going to be because of me, and you're not going to know it. Well, you'll know it, but you won't be able to prove it. So it was this type of thinking that always had neighbors at my house, my parents frustrated, not knowing what to do with me. So when I was about, and this, transitioned into school, grammar school. In grammar school, I went to a Christian high school, Christian the elementary school, and my principal hated me. And I think I've told this story before too, but it kind of started. I think one of the to understand why I ended up in psycho schools later, and I'll explain what they are, was that there was actually a petition made about me. I'm not lying. I couldn't make this shit up. Where I was so horrible, my principal had so much of me one day. I said something offhanded or I did something that was a little wrong or whatever. He sat me in the middle of the class, told me to sit down, and he proceeded to interview the entire class. He had them line up, and each one by one had to come up and say if I'd ever done anything horrible to them. And of course, they all had something to say. And so he read, Jill F. Okay, what did Jason ever do? Tell me something that he did to you. Oh, one time he said your pussy stinks, and I bet it's because you still didn't, ever take a shower, so it's probably your mom's pussy stink from when you were born. Great. Next, Tommy Brighton says that one time you kicked him in the penis and laughed, and when he got up, you kicked him in the penis and laughed again, and then threatened to kill his parents if he told anybody. It was like, and so he did this for like 30 minutes, and he was so mad at me, my principal. It wasn't the first time. And I couldn't understand what this was about. Like, what was he going to do with this information? How was this going to do anything? By the end of that class period, that entire class, and he interviewed another class after that, by the way, about how horrible I've been, had 30 to 40 names with infractions against from each person that I'd committed against. I mean, you couldn't have made this shit up. And he had me and my mother come back, and my father, later that night, like nighttime, just to be a dick. You know, school's over and stuff, and they just got out of work. They're tired and shit like that, but he wants to be a cock. Yeah. Anyway, so we all went in there, and he went over infraction by infraction. And my mom and my dad, you know, my dad at one point was just, he was done. He was done. He's like, you know,
I think we need to seriously look into a fucking exorcism because there's something wrong with him. No, it's not just doing this, doing that. I think he was born evil. I think, honestly, we might be hosting, you know, fucking Satan here, okay?
But, you know, and some of them were half-truths. So, like, I'll give you an example. I remember one very specifically where some of them I had to cop to, but okay, that's true, that's true. And then, like, one of them was from this girl named Jill. I'll never forget it. And it said, he approached me in the hallway, put a knife to my throat, and said, I'm going to cut your fucking throat, bitch. He actually wrote fucking throat, bitch. Here's what actually happened. And she didn't actually, and she told me later she felt pressured by him because he's being such a dick. And he's like, you had to come up with something to say about me. Not that everybody was making stuff up, but maybe 3 or 4 people who actually hung out with me said stuff against me. And I later went up like, what the fuck? And they were like, no, this is what I actually said. What had actually happened at the time was Halloween at school. And do you remember those like knives where the blade would go in the handle so it could look like you're stabbing somebody? It was fucking a cheapy knife from like you get at some costume shop. I remember I saw this girl. I knew her, and I went to her and I'm like, die, bitch. And then she was my friend, and I'm like, ha ha ha. And she's like, oh, cool knife. And that was the end of the story. There was nothing. He turned it into like she didn't know it was a fake knife and all this bullshit. So this led to me having to go see my first of many psychiatrists. Side note, and I will tell you her name because it's public record later. And Google and see if I'm fucking lying. Google and see if I'm lying. So I went to go see this doctor, and they're like, she's like, what exactly is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. And she was mad because I wouldn't talk to her. And finally I started like talking to her, but it was all bullshit stuff. I didn't want to talk to her. What am I telling my deep? Well, I'm starting to get pubes on my dick, and I'm really concerned about that. And once in a while when I sleep and have a nice sexy dream, I come in my pants. Is that normal? I mean, it's just like I wake up with sticky shit in my pants, and I think I'm having my man period, and no one has told me. I think there's one for boys, and this is it. And where's my Kotex? So I started seeing her, and I couldn't. She seemed cool, and she seemed nice, but there was something about this chick that just unnerved me about her. And this might be a long video, so get some snacks. You might need it. So there was something about I just didn't trust this chick. I didn't trust her from the jump. And I later know why. So I'm 12 at this point, and she's like, well, she had told my parents that she thought I needed a lot of therapy, and I needed to, to learn what I was doing wasn't right, and blah, blah, blah. So I, for my benefit, needed to be in a psych ward, a child psych ward, to, for behavioral modification, and also because I had Tourette syndrome, and I needed some kind of like medicine, and they could see what worked for me and didn't. I don't know if I ever told you guys that I have Tourette syndrome. I do. I know. I'm not one of those. I didn't think I had it either. People used to accuse me of lying, but like, I never was like one of those, they scared the shit out of me. I went to a few like meetings or something because my mom was like, you should get to know about this, but she wanted to know about everything like scientifically and all that, and I was all like, I want to go do bad things with my friends. Why am I on the freak shows? I think it's very obvious they are all possessed by demons. I mean, they just need a good exorcism and they'll all be fine. But so I had that. Have it, whatever. I don't think it goes away or whatever. But she, under the guise of my bad behavior and Tourette or whatever, I should be in a psych ward. Like, I'm sorry, it was for kids, so it's going to be nice and pleasant and all that. Now, when you go into one of these places, most kids have ghetto-ass insurance. Like, I remember the black kids there would go in there, and they'd laugh their ass off. They wouldn't take the rules seriously. They would be there for like 2 weeks. They'd be like, fuck you, I ain't doing anything you say. You can give me a timeout, put me in the quiet room. A quiet room is a padded room where they just throw you in there when you're getting too violent or whatever. And then if you get really violent, there's a restraint bed. I think there's something very S&M about that. I don't know. I think kids were fucked there, but I'm not sure. But if you want me to go into detail about my time there, I will. Eventually. I was there twice. But so I went there, and it turned out I had really good insurance because I was adopted. I don't know why adoption gets you really good insurance, but apparently It does. So I thought I'd be home after 2 weeks, no matter what I did. So I was just acting the ass. I was like, "Fuck you, bitch! I'm not listening to you. I'm not listening to you either." But they had point books, like you got points for waking up if you were good. The nurse had to sign off everything. I ripped them up daily. I was like, "Suck my dick, fuck you, fuck you. I'm going home in 2 weeks." No, I wasn't. No, I had really good insurance that would allow me to stay there until they thought I was well enough to leave, which was be 3 months. I was there for 3 fucking months. And I'll tell you, the only good thing about it is it kind of is the only reason I've never been to jail. The only reason. Because I was like, this sucks when somebody tells you when to wake up, what time you're going to go to bed, when you're going to wash your ass. Like, you had to go to bed at 10. 10. Lights were out. There was no questions. There was no arguing. If you argued, they locked your ass in that little fucking room, or they held you down, or they beat you, or some shit like that. It was like, no. And then you were around other crazy kids. So this gets into the crazy schools. So I was there the first time, and I didn't get better, of course. I just faked it. Eventually, you learn to become even more of a psychopath because you just start faking. You know what they want to hear. Like, I remember listening to a nurse one time, and she was like, he's just not dealing with his issues. He is, acting like everything's good, but we obviously know he's not dealing with the issues because he hasn't had a breakdown. So I knew Jason needs to have a breakdown. So I did the best I could. I don't think I really cried, but I acted like finally one day everything got to me. I was just like, and I talked to my nurse, and I was like, I know I've been really horrible. I think my parents, I feel because I'm adopted, that maybe they don't really love me. And maybe, I just don't really think anybody ever loves me, so I'm going to prove they won't love me by just doing horrible things so they won't. I think it's some, self-destructive thing. I did do this at 12. I'm like, And she's like, it's okay to feel that way. I didn't feel that way at all. Bitch, I want to go home. That's all I wanted. So they just trained me to be better at being crazy. That's all they've done for me. So went home. The doctor's like, sweet. I went back a second time because things didn't work out. And I got worse, and fires were set, and neighbors complained, and I think the village was ready to hang me at a certain point. I'm not even exaggerating. I wish I was. So, last year, in my eighth grade year, I was again getting into trouble. I was getting horrible grades. Everything was not looking well. I didn't have a high school that I picked out yet because my grades were too shitty. It looked like I was going to be held back a year. My principal was like, fuck no, he's not coming through this again. We are done with him. We don't want him in here. So somehow my evil psychiatrist and everybody else concocted that I needed to go back on the psych ward until I could figure out where I would go to school, even though it was summertime. I still think my parents just wanted me because they still both worked at the time, even though my mom, that was after she got hit by a car and all this shit happened and my life went to crap. Not that it wasn't that great anyway. But, so I got put back into the psych where they tricked me. They lied to me. It's like, oh, you're just going to go in here and look for a minute. Like, Clink, it's like, you fucks, you motherfucker. I was so horrible. It was like The Exorcist with me. I said every form of swear word you could at everybody, and I'm not going to lie, I spit on nurses and stuff. I was just an animal. I wanted to go home. It was summer of my 8th grade year before I went to high school. I was mad. Everybody else is like, going to have a great... I remember when I got there the second time, they had like an intake interview or whatever, like, how are you doing? What's your weight? Okay, I can't have anything sharp. You can't have any belts or anything like that because you might strangle somebody. And she's like, it was June when I went in, like the beginning of June. She's like, so what are you going to do? The intake nurse is like, what are you going to do, the rest of your summer when you get out of here? I'm like, I will be here all summer. She's like, no, you won't. Yeah, she's right. I wasn't there all summer. I was beyond summer. I was there until fall this time because I'm like, honey, I know myself. Now, after you get out of a place like that, say you don't have a school lined up, well, Chicago Public School does not want you. They're like, no, this person is crazy. They must go to crazy school. And I didn't know what a fucking crazy school was. I had no clue. And I didn't know why this was taking so long to find me a school. And so there were a few, I remember, like, I would get day release. I know, it's fucking insane, like I'm fucking Hannibal Lecter or some shit like that. But I would get day release to go with my parents like a Monday or Tuesday for like 3 hours. I got to go. Yes, I tried to run, but that's a different story. To go see certain schools, and I knew my freedom depended on picking any fucking school. The first school, use that term loosely, I saw was way out in the burbs. It was a house. It wasn't a school. There was one of those restraint beds we had in the fucking psych ward. In the middle of the hallway of this place, there were kids running willy-nilly, spitting on the walls and shit. I'm like, fuck no, this is a school? You're out of your fucking minds? No. I swear to God, I'll kill everybody. Fuck. So, finally, there was one school. It was on the campus of I'll call it a real high school. And I'm like, okay, this looked nice. It seemed presentable. Boy, was I fucking wrong. So I agreed to go to the school to get out of the psych ward. Okay, so I agree. All right. Now, I've been horrible. I admit it. I've been to many, you know, many. I stayed in the principal's office more than I was anywhere else. I swear I was. I just. They might as well put my desk always in there. And I think at a certain point they actually did. No, it was in the hallway because I couldn't be around other people because I'd influenced them or something like that. Because they thought it was fucking Manson or something. I don't know what was wrong with them. So I remember. It's just so classic. So I was like, okay, I'll go to stupid school. I'll get out of there. And I'm really cutting some stuff out of here because I'm forgetting. But I remember the first day that I was going to go there. I'm like, I didn't realize in the car ride when I saw the place how far it was. It was in Skokie, Illinois. I'm in Chicago, Illinois. It's not next door. It's like, you know, if you have a car, it's probably like 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. On a bus, it's quite a different story. So I had to take before they got my bus ready, which that was another thing, because guess what? My bus turned out to be the short bus. You know the retard bus everybody laughs about? Yeah, I rode it. It was with all the other maniacs. So the first couple times I went, I had to actually take a train, a bus, another bus to go to this nut job school. And I never forget the first day I went, I did everything I was supposed to do. They told me what route to take, so, you know, I did it all on my own. I went down the train. I went on the fucking horrible bus. I get there. It seems like a normal school, just smaller. The first difference I noticed was I walk in there, this guy is like Italian or something like that. He was about 17, 18, or 25, I don't know. And he's in my classroom, my homeroom. And there was a few classrooms, but they weren't very big. That should have been my first tip-off right there. And the teacher comes up to me, and I'm expecting her to say, "Hi, Miss Collins. I'm Miss so-and-so. I'm Miss Smith." She goes, "Hi, call me Cindy. Now, here's what it is. Like, I'm going to be your homeroom teacher, and then later on, you'll have English in the other room. And the only thing you have to know is if you say a lot of swear words or you know, try to violently attack us, you will get a timeout, and there is a timeout room. But if you're good in the timeout room, you'll get a treat afterward, and you can leave the timeout room and join the rest of the crazy motherfuckers. Is there a problem?" And I was like, "Run that by me again, bitch. What did she just, what, a timeout room, a treat like I'm a dog? The fuck is this?" But they had some sweet treats, I'm not gonna lie. So I sit down kind of trying to make out what this school is, and I forget that the Italian kid comes in, who's in my class, and she goes, "Hi, Tony, how was your summer?" And he looks right at her and goes, "Shut the fuck up, you fucking bitch," and sits down. As bad as I was in my old school, that would have been like, you were suspended for a week. She's like, you need to watch that. That is something, mister. I swear, I will frown if you do that again. I'm like, he's not being punished, right? I'm like, what the fuck is this? A fight broke out that day. They cursed the teachers out. They had no respect for anything. And I'm like, what kind of hell have I gotten myself into? And, oh, it was horrible. And you got this little sheet. Like, there were levels. Like, when you entered these schools, you were at level 0, which meant, I don't know, you could, like, hop on one leg for a while, and then, you know, a teacher might not kick you in the balls. I don't know. It was something stupid. If you got on level 2, you got to go run around the track outside like a fucking mental patient retard. Like, who gives a shit? So I started to be like, what the fuck am I in? And, you know, of course I started getting into trouble. And I eventually met the timeout room, which was a room with 5 or 6 desks where you sat in there. They asked whoever sent you in there what your infraction was. They put a timer on, like for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, depending, like, what did he say? That he was going to cut off her nipples and then paste them to her ears and make them earrings. Okay, that's a 30-minute timeout, and you sit right there next to Jennifer over here, was caught shooting heroin in the bathroom and then dealing it afterward. I mean, this is ridiculous. They would write your name down, the timer would go off when you were done, and you just sat there like you couldn't talk. But we all did anyway, because it was crazy school. What do you expect, the crazy kids? So we're sitting there talking, and then 20 minutes later, if you didn't, I don't know what they expected you to do, if you didn't, like, start pulling your hair out of your head and bashing another kid's head in the wall, she would open a drawer up with candy and cookies and give it to you and send you on your way. No words. I don't know. Eventually, Jason got too bad for that school, because what happened was I got kicked out of it. I mean, now, let me tell you, these kids that I went to school with, my first girlfriend, for example, like ever, when I was like 14, 13 or something like that, had tried to set her old school on fire, which is why she was there. She had tried to set the boiler room on fire. She could have blown it up and killed like 500 kids, but I thought she was cool. So, we smoked in the timeout room. Like, they didn't give a shit. Like, we smoked cigarettes and shit like that. We would lean up against the window. And the woman, she would try. God bless her. She'd be like, you guys cannot smoke cigarettes. We're 14. You can't. I'm scared. They're going to kill me in the parking lot. I don't want to. I could go on and on about these schools. But I got kicked out of that one. I ended up in, what was the second one? There was another one I ended up in. It was even worse than this one. And it was in the city because I got kicked out of that one. I don't remember what I got kicked out for. I think I put laxatives on the pizza that some girl made. I'm not positive. I know I did that at one point. But that maybe she almost like died or something. I don't know. But I got kicked out of that one. And, at that point, my parents didn't know what to do with themselves. I was afraid of going back into psych ward because I had no school. I was still only 14. So they put me in another school. I got kicked out of that psycho school. And these kids that you go to these schools are sexually abused, crack babies who are now 16 and just kind of sit and stare. They have homicidal tendencies. They're gang members. But these schools lines say it's it's a mix of behavioral students and kids who are educationally challenged. They don't teach you shit. They educationally challenge my ass. If you're going to send your kid to an educationally challenged school, he's going to make friends and be friends with psychotic kids and end up psychotic himself. I got more bad behavior from those places because, it's like kind of prison in a way, like where you if you were a dork or an asshole, you get your ass fucked up. I saw kids fucked up, just beat every day. They'd spit on them and shit like that. It's like, oh hell no, you got to let it be known right away that you will fuck somebody else up or act the ass. And so I would just flip a desk or something and let them know I was, I'm not saying I was a tough motherfucker or anything like that, but I wasn't gonna be one of the fucking kids that got basically stalked in their. I remember one kid got his balls kicked constantly. Kids would wait for him to come out this one area and just swing their leg around the corner and kick him in the balls, and he would double over in pain and crying, and we thought it was funny because we were crazy. So it was horrible. It was horrible. And then the last one I went to was downtown, which was easier to ditch it. It was on the campus of Northwestern Hospital, and because it was another crazy school, I got kicked out of the second one. I don't remember why there. I think I threatened the woman that worked there. Yeah, I did. And I got kicked out of the third one, and eventually they're just like, we're homeschooling you for the last year. Get your diploma because we give up. We can't do this anymore. You've been kicked out of 3. I don't think there are any more that would take me. But the one downtown was pretty nice. The thing is, if you left the premises, the security of Northwestern Hospital or whatever could chase you, but they could only chase you up to where the property line was, and then you go across the street like, thank you, you're rent-a-cop motherfucker, woo! Grab your balls and just start, but then they try to find you next day, kick your ass. But yeah, so I was in 3 of those schools, and this was all a great idea from my psychiatrist. Well, footnote to my psychiatrist, never liked her. Finally, I had it out with her one day because she had lied to me about more than one thing. She had some very suspect practices that if you read up on her, you can find out about. And I just didn't trust this chick, and I had it, and it always seemed she was trying to pull me. She had told my parents at one point that I was supposed to be transferred from the psych ward to residential care, which is basically live away psycho ward or whatever, where they put you somewhere in Montana and kill you and they don't tell anybody. But turned out she and another doctor that were there were implanting satanic false memories in people. And she got tried for it. Her name is Dr. Poznansky. I can't say allegedly. Go look at Google it. Poznansky at Rush Hospital, Illinois. Her and another doctor. Tell you how creepy it was. The psych ward I was on, the first time I went, 1988. I was 12 years old, right? There were 2 boys in one room. You can read the story. Go read it. In one room. And I'm like, oh, okay. 2 years later, when I go back, those same 2 boys who are brothers are in the same room. Nobody stayed for 2 years. I'm like, what the fuck? Turns out their parents were being held upstairs and being convinced that they ate babies in a satanic ritual. I'm not kidding you. This bitch brought a gun. She brought a gun and asked these 2 kids who were one of them was about my age. So one was 12 and one was younger, 7 or 8. Does this remind you of anything? Does this remind you of the time that you and your mother killed babies and ate them in the woods wearing hoods, and then Beelzebub rolls from the ground? This is the bitch that my care was entrusted to, and I never let my parents forget it. They felt horrible later on, but it was just I could throw that in their face forever. It's like, oh yeah, I might have, damaged that one car. But gee, it's not like, I don't know, put my kid someplace in the care of somebody who was convincing somebody they had satanic memories. She got in big trouble. She got her license removed or some shit for that. So did the other dude. I mean, she made video. Her and the other guy allegedly made videos with this woman saying, "I remember the time they drugged the mother up so much and convinced her that she had done all this shit, that she had like dismembered children and sacrificed them to Beelzebub and all this other shit." This is who Kara was entrusted to. This is it was insane. She could put up a good act. I'll Google it if you think I'm lying. I can tell you their names, but I don't want to tell you the kids' names here because, I mean, it's public knowledge now, but whatever. But yeah, so I never had the typical high school experience. That's why I always hesitate when people go, "Well, where'd you go to high school? Were you on, did you do any sports?" There weren't exactly sports in the schools I went to. What the rules were, you came in the beginning of the day, checked your cigarettes, no bullshit. Checked your lighter, no bullshit. Anything sharp, checked. End of the day, you get it back, and then have a couple fights during the day, and do some random weird shit. And I remember the teachers were crazy too. Like, I remember my friend was fucking one of the teachers, and I didn't believe him, and so she was like in the hallway or whatever, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well, could I do this?" And he pulled her pussy out right in front of me. I'm like, "Oh, sweet, So I don't even know if this is interesting to anybody. I don't know, but I promised I'd do the video, and if you want to know more, I can detail it more. But I'm already up to 26 minutes here. I don't even know if this is upload. Let's see. So yeah, I was so jealous when I went to my brother's school. It was like a normal high school. It was like 90210. Like when I visited his high school, they had parking spaces and like regular lunch and no restraint beds. It's like, what the fuck is this? And no, electroshock therapy or anything. Like, what kind of school is this? What kind of luxury paradise is he going to? But I was always so jealous of that. So when you ask me what high school I went to, were there yearbooks? No, because we couldn't take photos of each other on the school. You couldn't. You weren't allowed to because still they're minors. So I can't take a picture of my best friend and all of us making a group photo even with shitty cameras because there's a privacy like rule or something like that, guarantee. There's a right to privacy. So we couldn't even take pictures or have. I must have been a fun yearbook. Can you imagine we did have a yearbook, a bunch of silhouettes, shit like that with like the crimes they committed underneath. Yeah, so that was my little psycho school experiences. I went to 3 of them. I will never forget them as long as I live. I met interesting people. I learned interesting things. And I learned a lot about bullets, switchblades, guns, and just general bad behavior. But I'm grateful because at the end of the day, I don't know, am I grateful? I think I need to go take an Advil now because now I'm getting a headache.